Hello and welcome to the Stress Mastery Podcast. Thanks for joining me for the Saturday edition. I am your host, Peggy Romero. I hope you're having a great day, and I really hope that this podcast will make your day even brighter. So thanks for listening. This week, we've been talking about career and stress mastery. Wow. All I could say is, if I would have known stress mastery practices sooner, my career life and my whole life would have been so much brighter and easier. Oh my gosh. I can tell you with the utmost confidence, I lived my life in the red zone, stressed out like crazy, living in fear every single day of my poor little life. If I lived in force and stress and strife is to say the least. And remember, if you live your life in the low red zone like that habitually, it's really hard for you to ever really connect to yourself, like to actually be you for a minute. You can sometimes. I mean, I did pull myself up into courage, which is the entry level into the green zone. I did manage to find the guts to start, this and that and come up with some great ideas and follow through on them. Even if I failed, I would get up and try again. And one of Bill's sayings is, he tells us all the time, you can't fail if you don't quit. So I guess I was a success in many ways, many times. But I just kept trying by grinding and pushing and forcing. And if I had to step over you on my way, that's what I would do. But I never meant to do it to be mean. I just had to get to where I was going because I was scared to death. I was raising my kids alone, and I didn't want them to live in poverty. I wanted them to have the things that I never had. Most of the things I did because I was in such a lousy position, or felt like I was in a lousy position, and I just wanted to get out of it. So when my husband left me and I refused to go back with him because I didn't want my kids to think that this was the way life was supposed to be. It wasn't because I was, strong, or it wasn't because I just knew in my heart that I deserved better or that I would find somebody better. It was fear of what their life would become. It was because I didn't want my daughter to think this was okay to, an okay way to be treated. And I certainly didn't want my son to be raised up and treat his wife the way his father had treated me. I wanted to leave while my kids were still young enough to see a better, adulthood than what I had been showing them before that. It wasn't because I was standing up for myself or that I knew I was worthy of any better. I probably didn't think that I was worthy of any better. I just didn't want them to think that they weren't worthy of any better. So my entrepreneur lifestyle didn't start out from courage or confidence. It actually came out of desperation. I was fortunate enough to buy a house on a contract when I was about 25. Well, my husband had a great job and we could afford it easily. And, we could afford a whole bunch if he brought his paycheck home. Unfortunately, he didn't always bring his paycheck home on Friday. Well, unfortunately, he didn't always bring himself home on Friday either. I guess it's funny now. It wasn't at the time. I started babysitting kids for the simple fact that I wanted to earn enough money just to pay our basics, food, shelter, clothing. I had to take care of my kids. I knew growing up that, we didn't have a lot and I wanted my kids to have better. I did not want them being raised in poverty the way I was. So that was really successful because I was able to babysit kids and make money. It took a whole bunch of pressure off the financial situation. And so in time, he did grow up a little bit and started bringing more money home. So that was really nice. I did want to open a daycare center, speaking of career, and I didn't follow through and do that because I think I would have needed to count on him and I just couldn't. So I was stuck at home with the kids all the time during that time, and I really did need some adult companionship. My friends were at home with their kids, and I was at mine, and then I had the kids I was babysitting, and we used to have a play school and a structured day. Everything happened at the same time each day, just so that my house wasn't chaotic. So I wanted some adult companionship, and I ended up when I was really young, I think I was maybe, 21 or 2 or something. I started a little basket company on the side. I don't remember how I found these wholesale wicker baskets in the first place. It's like they just dropped in front of me. I really don't recall. But I went to this gigantic warehouse and this lady had all these baskets and it was only about an hour and a half away from me. They were super inexpensive. And so I figured out what they cost at the store, and I just made up different little things I could do with them. And I ended up realizing I could totally make a profit on these baskets if I had a market. So I did mark them up for 3 times more than what I paid for them. And I just started selling them to friends. And then I started asking my friends, hey, could you invite some people over and I'll give you this for doing it? So I created my own little party plan. Then somebody at one of the parties asked me if I could work up something that could be a gift basket for their employees for Christmas. And I think they needed I don't know, not very many, 10 or 15 of them. So I ended up looking for wholesale meats and cheeses that were made in Oregon and, stuff like that, candy. And I made gift baskets, but not just for that company. I called everyone I knew, everybody I could think of. And I ended up making I don't know, maybe 150. I don't remember. All that I could for that season. It was so fun. And I was like, wow, this is really profitable. It didn't last, though, because, I was a housewife and I needed to take care of my kids and I babysat and I didn't want my kids to get babysat. And my ex-husband was never very, I don't know. I think he didn't want me to be successful. I'm not really sure what the deal was, but he never worked with me. So he wanted me at his beck and call. And so I ended up having to quit. It just didn't work out. I mean, I doubt my parents would babysit while he was at home, doing nothing. So I don't know. Fortunately, I quit that job and he quit me right before my 27th birthday. So for that, I will always be grateful. So I've told you guys on the podcast before, my hairdresser then offered me a job. Just go to beauty school. You'll be great with this. I ended up with a hair salon. After that, I got that all running and going great. And I got some girls working there and they were all paying me rent to work and got that moving and profitable. So then I started going to real estate school because then I could cut hair part-time, go to real estate school part-time. So then, I love houses, so why not? I loved it. Might as well be a realtor. So that led me to finding houses that were a really great bargain. And so I started fixing up and selling them. Of course, now that's called flipping houses. I don't know what we called it back then. That was in the really early 90s. And I did that for, oh my gosh, maybe 10 or 15 years. That was really lucrative for me. But the thing is, being a single woman and a landlord and being your own contractor all the time was really challenging because I was constantly feeling like I had to fight for respect. Some men that you met thought, wow, this woman's a freaking badass. And others of them looked at you and thought, what are you going to do if I don't follow through what I was supposed to do? So, remember I was young and cute and I was dressed nice all the time because I was a realtor and a hairdresser. But I would also go to job sites and keep things going because I was always my own contractor. And then a lot of the times I would do my own work. I was off on Sunday and Monday, so you would always find me, painting, cleaning, tiling floors. I knew how to do laminated floors and tile, backsplashes and all that. I could do light fixtures and, easy electricity. I didn't, get into the power boxes or anything, but I could paint and pressure wash and all that kind of stuff. Anything that I could figure out how to do. And I had lots of friends that would teach me how to do things, by the way. I didn't do it on my own. They usually would get me started or teach me the first few times, do it with me so that I could do it on the other ones. So awesome. So anything I could do, obviously I would do that, or me and my kids would do it. Because if I could do it myself, then that was more money. And that's part of being an entrepreneur too, guys. You have to realize what your time is worth. So it's really important that you don't save a nickel and lose $1 of your time. It's just part of being a money manager. When you own your own business, your time is money. Because that's all you've got. That's your asset. So after a while, I got tired of being a landlord in Portland, Oregon, where the renter is always right, not ever the landlord. And it would take forever and a day to get a lousy renter out of your house, even if they weren't paying your rent, and ended up costing you thousands of dollars. So after a while, I sold and bought myself an Allstate agency. So my cousin Kevin had been a really successful Allstate agent. He was winning all these trips and making a bunch of money. His sister Joanne hopped in, and she was also successful. So these guys had had great careers before going there. So I knew if they were making money, they were making really good money. Joanne was a nurse for decades, so I assumed she was making good money. Kevin was a plumber and owned a deli and figured he could make more at Allstate. So, when I tell you, I don't know what Kevin did right before that. It's because he is the epitome of a serial entrepreneur. I know that he's been a plumber and I know he's owned a deli. I don't know what he was doing right before Allstate, but he's a great guy. He is positive, he's creative, and he is gutsy. Always willing to take a chance. And he's really successful. So if ever I've been short on an idea, I can just call him and he would give me a dozen ideas during one 5-minute phone call. He's really fun. Believe me, they're great ideas and viable too. So they're not just, a bunch of hogwash. So anyways, I decided to try my hand at being an Allstate agency owner. And I'm very grateful that I took that chance. So Kevin lived in New York and I was in Oregon at the time. And we were having lunch and he says, and I just graduated from college and I was thinking about getting my master's. And he goes, oh, when are you going to stop messing around with school and start making some real money for yourself? You really need to open an Allstate agency. It's the best business in the world. I always remember he said that. He told me the ins and outs of the opportunity and how much money you could make. And if you do this, that, and all this stuff. And it sounded great. Well, I never looked back. I called a manager right away. But here's the thing. Over the next few years, I did start making a bunch of money and I got more and more sales and my book of business became bigger and bigger. So I had employees and then a few more employees. I had salespeople, receptionists. I had customer service people. I had to do marketing. I had a telemarketing crew. I had deadlines and numbers to make, payroll and taxes and all of that stuff. And I have to admit that I had to realize that I was a complete control freak. Like I couldn't let go of anything, but the ball was too big for me to manage myself. So I was used to being able to do everything for myself. So it was really a big problem. So now that I've done coaching, I realized that that was my ego all along. Of course, nobody could do anything as good as I could, and I couldn't trust anybody to do it right anyways. It was my way or the highway. I was terrible. And the pressure mounted more and more and more. And looking back now, I know that it was solely because I couldn't do it all myself. And I only trusted myself to do it. See the problem? So just before I bought the Allstate agency, I had gone to college, finally went back and got my degree after quitting school when I was 15 years old. College is a one-man show. I mean, you reap what you sow. The test grades are your own, and that's your grade. But actually, I did go to Warner Pacific in a night program when I got my bachelor's degree, and it was a cohort. But thankfully, I worked with these other 3 women. One was older than me. I was about 40 or 45. One of them was older, and the other 2 girls were younger, but they all took it seriously. They really wanted a good education, and for that, I will always be grateful. I graduated with high honors, and I could have never done that if I was mixed in with a group of people that didn't do their best on the project. So for those girls, Nicole, Tiffany, and Lori, I'm very thankful. Now, my agency was a different story because I could not figure out how to get these individuals to care about the agency as a whole. I gave them bonuses and raises. I hung out with them, invited them to my house. I would send them to the beach or to trips on their own if they did certain things. I gave them time off if that's what they wanted, if they hit a certain goal. I know they cared about me as a person, and we really did get along pretty well, but they didn't love the agency like I did, and I wanted them to, and I could never figure out how to get them to care that much. And by the way, I still know it's possible because I've seen it before, and I still don't know where I went wrong with that, but maybe Bill can help me with that. We've always made our bonuses, and we were very successful, but I always felt like, I don't know, they just didn't care as much as I did. And I personally was just failing as a human being. I was completely stressed out. I gained over 75 pounds. My knees were killing me. I had high blood pressure for the first time in my life. I looked and felt awful. I was miserable. So I now see that focusing just on career left the other life categories in the dirt. I had no time to focus on anything. My finance was going okay because I had learned through all these businesses that I had leading up to this. Especially, I started it when I barely had any money, understanding I need to save some, I need to stick on a budget. You don't have to spend every bit of money that you make, no matter if you make a little or a lot. So my career and finance, I guess, were okay, but my health was awful. My relationships were even worse. Personal spiritual development, I'm not that sure how to judge that because I didn't know it was a thing. So I've done my own version of Green Focus Power Hour every morning without fail since my young 20s. I've always known how important it is to start your day right. It was easy for me to plan out with what my expectation of myself was for that day, what I was going to get done for the day. I mean, when I babysat, I had a play school, so I planned out what they were going to do, you know. I made lunches and, planned my snacks and all that stuff. Whatever dinner was going to be that night, what time do I have to get it started? I've always prayed. And I would write out what I thought I could do to make my husband happier back in those days. It was never about me then. It was always about somebody else. And then anything I needed, to budget for my kids or what they needed from me. Well, when I had the agency, my Green Focus Power Hour and my planning stuff was, much the same. Only I would have like whatever my meetings were, and I would write out what all my creative ideas were. I mean, I'm telling you guys, I never run out of great ideas. I wish I could do 10% of the things that I dream about. There really isn't time in the day for me to do all of them. And I love it that I'm creative. So I've always been connected to God. I mean, my Green Focus Power Hour and my planning in the morning has changed a lot, but I'm really glad. I believe that connection time alone is the secret to my success. God knows what I'm supposed to be doing. He puts that little twinkle, that spark in my heart, and it's up to me if I'm going to go for it or not. So I guess, I've always been working on personal development, even though I didn't know what it was. So I've never read any self-help or motivational books or anything like that. Probably would have been great if I did, because it might have helped me along my journey, instead of waiting until I was like almost 60 to meet Bill. So health and relationships, dumpster for sure. And that's not unlike most people. We hear that all the time. So a lot of us struggle with that. So the thing is, we have to focus on all 5 life categories. You can't just, stick on one. So speaking for myself, how well I can do at work today is directly affected by what I did yesterday. If I'm worried about a fight that I had, or I didn't close my day, or maybe I feel terrible physically because I didn't get a good night's sleep because I ate junk food last night or something, remember, the body supports the mind. I need my mind to work sharp. My whole career depends on my creativity, and I can't afford for my mind to be sluggish. The funny thing is, when I had my Allstate agency, I think instinctively I already knew this. I mean, I knew I felt terrible. I was gaining weight every year. I was constantly having to buy new clothes. I had never felt so bad in my life. I mean, I gave up this physical job of like literally physically painting houses and doing floors and running around and all this stuff to sitting at a desk, and then add on this tremendous amount of pressure because now for the first time in my life, I have a boss. Not really a boss because I own the agency, but there's, Mother Allstate putting these goals in front of you constantly. And well, I didn't want to fail. So it's a tremendous amount of stress. And the funny thing is, my sister was begging me to reach out to Bill and start doing stress mastery back then, but I refused because I was too busy. I mean, seriously, how did she think that I had time for this? I'm all so stressed out. I mean, if only. So I was just too stubborn and too stuck in the red zone to even hear her, right? I wasn't ready to listen, willing to learn, or able to do any of it. Because Lucy, my ego, was running my life all day long. I doubt I was ever out of the red zone for more than maybe an hour a day, maybe 2. And maybe, I guess career long enough because I did still come up with creative ideas. And guys, I loved my job. I loved the trips, the recognition. I love the people that I met and my customers. Oh, I just love people. And the other agents, even the corporate employees that were supporting us, they were great. I met some really good friends there. I'm still friends with them now. But the rest of my life was a total wreck. And you know what? It didn't have to be. If I could have understood my purpose back then, stagnation is my pendulum swing. So anytime anything went stagnant, red zone, I could have understood it and adapted processes for myself, to get out of the red zone. Maybe use a little patience. to see that everybody's not alike and that the girls are not going to work just like me. And that the end result is going to be the same, whether I'm freaking out in the red zone or whether I could stay in the green zone. I mean, I didn't need to be a jerk, and I was lots of times. If only I would have understood that psycho lady that went to work in my car every morning wasn't me, but my ego. Oh my gosh. I could have connected to the now. I could have lived in the present moment. I would have just taken a deep breath and realized I could pull myself out. Oh my gosh, life would have been so different. If only. So I talk to people all the time now who are still stressed out all the time. And I hope you guys are listening because you can have a beautiful life. I get such great joy giving people the few tools that they're willing to try to embrace, even if they're not coaching with me, just to be able to show them, here, try this. Take a breath. It'll change your life. I love it because I know that it works. And I love it when they tell me, oh, I've been doing that, and they feel better. I love it that they listen to the podcast. I love Stress Mastery because it changes people's lives. And yes, we're talking about career today, but it changes every part of your life. We can't just focus on one thing. We have to focus on the whole thing, on the whole self, all 5 life categories. They're connected, so you can't just ignore them. You can't accept that, one of them isn't good and I'm just not good in that spot, because that's one is going to drag the rest of you down. So matter of fact, that one that's the worst score that you've got, that's the one that you need to work on the most, because then it will pull the other ones up automatically. So guys, if you're not focusing on your health, start there. You'll have a better day tomorrow, and that will help you grow your career. That will help you in all of your 5 life categories. I am so grateful that I know my purpose, that I understand the energies. I will be ever grateful that I found out that I have an ego. And that answered so many questions for me, because I kind of thought I was crazy before that. Like, why do I say that I'm going to do something and don't do it? Why was that so important to me a couple hours ago and now I just can't, get off the couch? I love the let go technique. I mean, wow. Actually, all of the 7 steps of stress mastery are life-changing. So Bill, on behalf of the whole world, I thank you, because one by one, we're creating a shift in the planet. For each one of us who is behaving differently, responding differently, we are help creating a shift. I think it's amazing. And if you ever need help with anything, any of this stuff, please go to the Stress Mastery community. You guys, there's coaches in there that will help you. As well as the rest of the community, we're all there to help. And we're all going through the same stuff as you are. We're human beings. We're all created exactly the same. So yeah, we understand. Of course, you can reach out to me individually at PeggyRomero.com. And if you want to hear more of my story, you can go to my website or other booksellers, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and buy my book. People tell me that it's inspiring and easy to read. Somebody just sent me a note that said that a friend of theirs bought them the book as a gift. Gosh, isn't that so nice? I love that kind of stuff. It makes me so happy. That lady loved my book. She said she read right through it in a couple days and she doesn't even like to read. And she says I'm inspiring. So I love it when people use that word because, Bill and all that stuff. Stress Mastery, stay inspired. So what I'm working on for my career is my workbook as a companion to that book. Finally, Becoming Who You Were Always Meant to Be. Well, now I'll be having a companion workbook. I think I'm going to name it, Finally, You Can Too. I'm not sure yet, but I'm in the process of writing it. So I've been taking this writing class all week. It's really cool and so motivational, making lots of progress. I also have a retreat coming up this year at the end of September, beginning of October. It's going to be fabulous. I hope you guys will come. I hope that you're following me on social media, Peggy with Purpose, and go to my website and see what I'm up to. There's lots of recipes in there that I put in there that are nice and healthy, and lots of people like my food. So I decided to be smart and put them on my website instead of emailing them to people constantly, because then I get more clicks on my website. See how I'm working on my career? That's marketing. And I think that was a good idea. Wherever you're at on your journey, you guys, we're happy to help you. Believe me, we all love people here at Stress Mastery. And I hope that this podcast will encourage you and give you confidence, just enough confidence to take one step, because one step at a time will get you there. It's really important to live every day on purpose, so make a plan for the day. That's it for today's show. Remember, our mission here is to create a shift in the planet, and you can join us on that mission by simply like, share, and subscribe. The links are right below the show notes. As always, until next time, stay inspired.